Production underwriting for Island Insights on PBS Hawaii is provided by
the Honolulu Star Bulletin, Hawaii's oldest daily newspaper, recording historic events and reporting daily news in Hawaii for 125 years. The Honolulu Star Bulletin and starbulletin.com.
The 44th President of the United States will take office in January 2009. If you thought you had until November to choose your candidate, however, think again. The 2008 primaries are coming earlier than ever. Republican and Democratic candidates are spending their holiday season shuffling between Iowa and New Hampshire, where party members will pick their nominees in the first 8 days of the new year. We have a little more time here in Hawaii, another month or two, depending on your party. If you want to make an informed choice, now is the time to do some comparison shopping. Aloha, I'm Dan Boylan. Welcome to Island Insights. Tonight is the second of our two-week look at the local campaign landscape. Last week we talked with the Democrats. This week we welcome the Republicans. If you haven't yet decided which candidate to support, maybe our conversations will help you make up your mind. If you have decided, we'd like to hear who you're supporting and why. So please call or email your comments and questions over the next hour. Our phone number is 973-1000, or you can send email to insights@pbshawaii.org. If you're calling from the neighbor islands, the toll-free number is 800-238-4847. Answering our phones again tonight are the dependable folks from the Hawaii League of Women Voters of Honolulu. Now to our guests. Charles DeJoux joins us as Vice Chair of the Rudy Giuliani campaign. DeJoux is a member of the Honolulu City Council, representing neighborhoods from Waikiki to Hawaii Kai. He is also a former minority floor leader of the State House. DeJoux is an attorney by trade and a captain in the U.S. Army Reserve. Kimberly Pine is a Hawaii co-chair for the John McCain campaign. Pine was elected to the State House 3 years ago, representing Ewa Beach and surrounding areas. She is the first Republican to hold that seat since statehood. She is assistant minority leader and worked in the State House as a staffer before she ran for office. And Kent Snyder chairs the Ron Paul 2008 National Presidential Campaign Committee. He first worked for Congressman Paul in the 1988 presidential campaign. In 1998, Kent became the executive director of the Liberty Committee, an organization chaired by Congressman Paul. He is in the islands to help launch Hawaii's Paul for President campaign. We also invited the Mitt Romney and Mike Huckabee campaigns, but as yet they haven't established organizations in Hawaii. Welcome to you all. Now, a lot of people out there have no idea what a party caucus is, a party presidential caucus, or how it works. So, lawyer and councilman, honorable councilman, tell us how the Republican presidential caucus works in Hawaii.
Well, works, that might be a strong word, but I think rule number one is do nothing until after the Sugar Bowl. But the way it works here in Hawaii is late December, last week of December, last week of January, first week of February, we'll hold caucuses to select delegates to the state convention. And the state convention, which will then be held in the middle of May, will elect delegates to the national convention. And it is those delegates elected to the national convention who will actually cast their votes for the Republican nominee for President of the United States.
And in the caucuses in January, the people attending will be asked who they support.
They can be. Now, that's a big distinction what we have here in the Hawaii caucuses versus, say, Iowa. People can declare who they support for president, but they do not have to. And there is no formal mechanism to say who supports which particular candidate for president. All it is electing delegates to the state convention.
And it doesn't freeze anyone in supporting one of those presidential candidates at the state convention.
That is exactly correct.
Why, Kimberly Pine, are you supporting John McCain?
Well, I think these candidates being represented here are fantastic. I think we have a great pool of people. But for me, it was personal. My husband just got back from the Gulf. He's been gone for 10 months this year, and we're newlyweds, so I haven't seen him much. And in the end, I wondered who was the best candidate to keep my husband safe and my future kids that may be born by the time a president is elected. Who has the experience, not only personal, a lifetime experience of handling tough situations, and as Lieberman endorsed him, being able
Joe
to...
Lieberman of Connecticut,
yes.
Senator.
Yes, a former Democrat. endorsed him, saying he's the only candidate that can bring America together, both Democrat and Republican. And I imagine my future kids and I sitting on a hill and all these enemies are charging us. And do I want a presidential candidate that's going to be against fighting, or someone that's been there, has been tested, and can keep my family safe? And so that's why I support John McCain.
Now, I think that Mayor Giuliani is running on this, essentially this argument as well, is he not?
Yes, I mean, I want to take nothing away from what Kim said. I mean, I certainly have a deep amount of respect for Senator McCain and what he has done. For myself, supporting the Giuliani campaign, two key points. Number one is, you want somebody who's going to be cool under pressure. And I don't think that there is another candidate out there that has been as tested and showed he is ready to handle a crisis. Whether we like it or not, the world is still a dangerous place, and we want somebody who is in the Oval Office who can handle pressure and crisis. But second, I think equally important, I think John McCain or all the candidates compared to Rudy Giuliani, what Rudy Giuliani has is clear executive experience running New York City. He turned around a city that was, I think, before his mayorship, called ungovernable, near bankruptcy, and turned it around and really cleaned it up. You know, for myself, I know all of us here in Hawaii, many of us enjoyed The Lion King this past year. A few years ago, I took my wife and my kids over to New York City, and I actually took them to The Lion King. And I had to explain to them that when I was in college, where The Lion King was used to be a XXX movie theater, and there was a full of drug dealers and whatnot. And today, it's a very family-friendly. It's someplace that I felt perfectly comfortable taking my wife and my children. And I think that is a perfect example of what Mayor Giuliani did in New York City and what he can do for the United States. He sets clear benchmarks, holds people accountable, and gets the job done. And that's why I think he deserves to be president.
Kent Snyder, my guess is there's an awful lot of people out there who haven't got a, watching this show tonight, who haven't got a prayer about who your candidate is, Ron Paul. I don't think he's broken the ice out here yet. Well, could you tell us?
Sure, we're working on that. Congressman Paul is a Texas congressman from South Texas. He's been serving 10 terms as a Republican. He's a physician. He's been married to the same woman for 50 years, a father of 5, 18 grandchildren, 1 great-grandchild. The reason that I support Dr. Paul, I've known him for over 20 years now, is because of the man of who he is, as I've just described. He's an OBGYN who has delivered over 4,000 babies in South Texas, but also, and more importantly, because of his record. He has a long record in the House of Representatives. He takes the oath of office, the Constitution, very seriously. He has a consistent voting record. He's a known quantity. He's highly respected in Congress, even though some people may not agree with him. Everyone does respect him greatly. People know who he is, his record. So for me personally, since I know him very well, I respect him as a man and as a human being, but I also respect him as a member of Congress, and that's the reason I support him.
One of my favorite historians is a guy named Shelby Foote, and novelist, and in Ken Burns' film on the Civil War, he says that one of the great strengths of American politics is the ability to compromise. Mm-hmm. And when I look at Representative Paul's background and what he stands for, it seems to be it's all about principle. Right. Can he compromise?
Well, his allegiance, as he talks about, is his sworn oath of office. That's his primary objective. He talks about that. He takes that very seriously. So when he looks at legislation and he looks for the Constitution, does he have the authority in the Constitution to do X or Y? And if he determines that he doesn't do it, he says, I can't do it. Because the unique system of American government is that the government has limited powers, not expansive powers or growing powers. So he says if you want to change the Constitution, it's called amendment, but he takes his oath of office very, very seriously. So that's his primary objective, is to uphold the Constitution, and people know that.
Rudy